Welcome to the Falmouth Chamber of Commerce. The Falmouth Chamber is dedicated to working on behalf of our members to make Falmouth a better place to live, work, and conduct business. We are committed to developing the economic, cultural, educational, and civic interests of our community and welcome the support from all organizations to achieve our combined goals. Whether you call Falmouth home, are a summer resident, or a visitor, we hope you take advantage of all that the Chamber has to offer.
Nestled in a classic New England setting, amid 200-year-old elm trees and charming colonial homes, stately sea captains' homes, and charming Cape Cod salt boxes, Shoreway Acres is a graceful blend of Cape Cod's past and present. Shoreway Acres, proud sponsor of Falmouth Community Television.
Green Harbor Waterfront Lodging is nestled in a woodland setting on a picturesque ocean inlet. Green Harbor offers a family waterfront vacation. Enjoy our private boating beach with dock, rowboats, and paddle boats, oversized heated outdoor pool, and kiddie pool. Relax in our waterfront and beachside accommodations. 548-4747 or gogreenharbor.com. People think that a locally owned and operated appliance store may not offer what they need. Actually, we have trained and dedicated sales associates, expert delivery and installation, professional repair service, and personal customer service. Plus, we have access to a huge local warehouse with over 6,000 models in stock. Crane Appliance. We call the Cape and Islands home. Carlson Printing for all your printing needs. 508-548-7303 or toll free at 1-800-696-7303. Our email address is carlsonprinting@aol.com. Carlson Printing for all your printing needs.
Hosting services for fctv.org are provided by MegaNet Communications. MegaNet offers a wide array of internet services including Mega Backup Cloud Service, server colocation, T1, fiber, Metro Ethernet, as well as telephone services such as hosted PBX and digital voice. Their number one goal is to keep your communications network up and running and allow you to focus on growing your business. 877-634-2638 or meganet.net.
The Quarterdeck Restaurant, located on Main Street in the heart of Falmouth, specializing in fresh local seafood and other classic American cuisine, featuring a full bar with friendly staff. And the Bucatino Restaurant and Wine Bar, located in North Falmouth just off Nathan Ellis Highway, featuring catering services with 2 full event rooms serving up classic Italian cuisine. The Quarterdeck Restaurant and Bucatino Restaurant and Wine Bar, we're here to serve all our friends in Falmouth.
Meeting of order tonight. I'll be chairing tonight because our chair, Ms. Braga, is out with her young daughter who's got a stomach virus, so family first. So I'd like to ask you to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to start our meeting.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, proclamation. This is a proclamation about No Guff Week. Whereas No Guff Day has been celebrated since 2001 at Falmouth High School, when Greg Gilbert and Doug Riebeshall, working with students to find a proactive way to handle conflicts, came up with the phrase No Guff. Since Riebeshall's tragic death that same year, No Guff has been celebrated in his remembrance. And whereas by taking the pledge and making a concerted effort to observe the No Guff mantra, community members work together and support each other in keeping a positive attitude and creating a positive environment. The No Guff Pledge. I will not speak, text, or post anything negative about anyone for an entire day. And whereas celebrating No Guff can raise awareness, change the environment, and help people feel better about themselves and others by discouraging negative remarks, put-downs, and bullying. And whereas the town of Falmouth is a No Guff community, celebrations and observations are planned throughout the week. Falmouth citizens are encouraged to come up with creative ways to celebrate No Guff concept at home, at school, at work, and during leisure time. Now therefore, we, Megan English Braga, Douglas C. Brown, Douglas H. Jones, Susan L. Moran, and Samuel H. Patterson, as selectmen of the town of Falmouth, by authority vested in us, do hereby call upon citizens of Falmouth to participate in all activities related to the No Guff policy and proclaim February 3rd through 7th, 2020, No Guff Week. In witness thereof, we have hereto set our hand and caused the great seal of the town of Falmouth to be affixed on January 27th, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If I may, Mr. Chair, recognize Greg Gilbert is actually here in the audience, and I think that, you know, it's a good opportunity to appreciate something that really is a legacy. It was done in honor of Mr. Ibasal, but you know, Mr. Gilbert honors us every year this week, and all of the students through this idea in a way that's fun for kids, and it's something that all adults, not only locally but nationwide, should really adopt. So just want to thank you for that.
It's Greg. Oh, there's Greg.
Good.
Maybe you can stand up, Greg, so everybody can see you.
Want to say a few words?
Also have Grant here from
Yep.
high school.
You need to go to the
You
mic.
guys can come on up.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's gonna say a few things too.
Great.
Excellent.
Plus, if he's here, it'll make me be a little brief.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I just want to say that when we started 20 years ago, 19 years ago, we had a lot of mediations, we had a lot of conflicts in the high school, and Doug Ribasol, I went in and asked him if we could make some T-shirts for, to kind of let everybody know that we're going to take a day and not speak negatively about anybody. Well, had an incredible effect. We really could see a difference in just the tone and the environment, and my partner, Joe Mello, the other adjustment counselor, was very involved with this too, and unfortunately, he passed away shortly after as well. And I like to keep both of those men in our memory because they both did a lot to bring kids together and celebrate that. We also have now it's really blossomed into all the schools and the community, and we have a Community Spirit Award, which we're still taking nominations for up until Wednesday through the VIP's office. And I like to think it's probably the most prestigious award you can receive because basically it's your peers saying that this person does not speak negatively about anyone else. I am not a good role model for this, but I did have a lot of support. Right now, Cavosa and Cape Cod Aggregates fund all the T-shirts for the entire school system. And I think next year, it'll be the 20th year, and I'd really like to see our whole town get more involved. I know I've talked to Dylan and David and some other people to try to get this thing really kicked up a notch. And this year's slogan is Count on Me, which I think is neat. Grant, you want to say a few words?
Yeah, sure. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Grant Leachman. I'm the current president of the senior class at the high school, and I just wanted to say tonight that it's been an incredible experience sort of growing up in a town with a motto of no guff and sort of who sees everyone in like an equal light. And I've been able to have the privilege of sort of organizing behind the scenes for my class what our like day theme is. Freshman year, we all had the chocolate glass of Owen and my brother's friends. And so it was one town, one family. I was able to organize sort of the 101 Dalmatians for my class, and we all dressed as dogs to show support, to be a family that year. And just going through all the years, last year we held a charity event to sort of support 3 charities of your choosing, Habitat for Humanity, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and the American Red Cross. And just seeing how much that the motto has sort of been ingrained into my peers and all of the grades below me, it's really humbling to see the history that's unfolded. I was lucky enough to have Miss Rebusol as my 2nd grade teacher, and when she sort of brought up that her son was like one of the main advocates for this, it really sort of hit me on a personal chord. And I was just asked to come tonight to sort of express how much that this has really changed my life, and I plan to sort of go forward into college and into my life, going around the country sort of explaining this very passionate motto that Falmouth has ingrained into me, and I really appreciate what it's done.
Thank you. I just want to say his sophomore year, he was one of the recipients. We vote for 8 students now at the high school, 2 from each class, that embody this slogan. And the junior high has done, I think, every team. There's 8 teams, and they pick 2 kids. So it really is, to me, the highest honor a parent can get when your son or daughter's chosen to be a No Guff award winner like Grant. So just wanted to bring that up. Good job, buddy.
I think that's a great way to set the tone for the way to behave in school and also in town, and it's great when we can learn from our students, so thank you. So, recognition, anybody have anything particular for recognition? I have a couple of things. I'd like to give recognition for the assembly at the Martin Luther King Day for the great event that was there. And it's the first time I've seen the Seacrest, all the petitions moved back and the whole room completely filled, and all the different groups that were there representing. And I give credit to our chair, Megan English Braga, for emceeing the event. She did a great job, and the whole thing was really inspirational, so I really enjoyed that.
We should probably give credit to No Place for Hate that organizes this
Absolutely.
every year.
Yeah.
Because they really did an outstanding job, and I second your compliments of Megan. She did a phenomenally adept job.
Yeah, really good.
Made it poignant.
And the other thing I'd like to recognize is the Falmouth Fire Rescue Department for honoring former Chief Brodeur with their award ceremony, naming the Emergency Operations Center after him. It was great to see that kind of recognition and appreciation for such a good man, so.
Mike
Thank you
Small
for
did a
that.
nice job with that.
Yeah, Mike did a good job with that. Okay, that's it for recognition for me, unless anybody else has anything. And then announcements. Does anybody want to make any announcements?
Pass.
Town managers, anything?
Sir.
Okay, public comment. Is there anybody here from West Falmouth that wants to make public comment? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Alden Cook. I'm a retired firefighter paramedic from Falmouth with 31 years on the job. As far as the West Falmouth Fire Station is concerned, who cares? The planned closing of the West Falmouth Fire Station raises the question of what concern exists for the citizens of the entire town of Falmouth. Contrary to the statement that this station and apparatus serve only 3% of the calls for fire and rescue responses in our town, this is untrue. This station and its apparatus are second-due responders for a large portion of our community. Therefore, its closing will affect a larger portion of our community than advertised. So, who cares? Apparently, no one in the town government. Once the station closes, no one except the residents of West Falmouth will notice. Someone will die of a serious illness or a traumatic incident. A dwelling will burn up in totality. No one will notice. These incidents could have been greatly mitigated by a reasonable response time. The firefighters, upon arrival, will do their very best, but delayed response cannot be defeated. As time passes, no one will notice, and this practice will become ordinary. I see no one concerned of this factor except the residents of our village. This can only indicate that our lives and properties are of less value than all the other villages and residents of the town of Falmouth. Removing an existing life and property saving service is totally wrong. Thank you.
I didn't read the the rules for the public comment, but we do appreciate if you could keep it to 2 minutes and introduce yourself, and it's got to be something that's not on our agenda tonight. And try not to make it personal, please. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Kevin Mulvey, and the Board of Selectmen must postpone any changes to the fire department. The proper staffing model should be developed. The reference of 8,000 calls per year, 22 per day, is a nice summary, but provides no direct link to the required staffing. A trending model must be created to determine the staffing requirements, consisting of a number of calls, firefighters called out, time of day, the amount of overtime, the time to respond, must be done by day, week, month, quarter, and year. This model must also include the person's annual schedule hours, vacation, personal time, and sick time. Having staff security personnel in emergency rooms, I have firsthand experience understanding that holidays, summer months, weekends, and days around state stipends require increased staffing. It is inconceivable that the Falmouth Fire Department is staffed on a flat line when the population explodes during peak season. 2 additional firefighters can be hired immediately with no impact on the budget. They would cover 4,000 of the 15,000 hours of overtime currently generated by the 64. This would leave a balance of $310,000 to cover benefit hours as well as actual calls. Adding 8 additional firefighters with the passing of Proposition 2.5 will have little impact to improve levels of service. The town needs to hire 7 just to cover the benefit hours of the current 64. And the chief has plans to promote 4 current firefighters to non-responding lieutenant positions. So the 8 new hires that have just been reduced to 4 call responding positions. In summary, I'm asking that this board step forward, take control of a critical public issue facing the residents of Falmouth, and provide a comprehensive 10-year plan covering staffing, promotions, fire stations, retirements, and response times based on historical data. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Robin Bowerman. I live at 430 West Falmouth Highway. In 1996, on a dark night, our 15-month-old daughter wasn't responding to us. We called 911, and we have never been so relieved as we were when that engine pulled up in front of our house within minutes, with an EMT. Soon after, the rescue arrived. En route to the hospital, she stopped breathing. If the response time had been any longer, our beautiful baby would have stopped breathing at home with 2 very loving parents, but no medical personnel. The hospital was not able to stabilize her. She was med-flighted to Boston with medical personnel breathing for her with a ventilator bag the whole way. We spent the night not knowing if she would wake up or breathe on her own. It was the worst night of our lives. When she woke up the next morning and she was breathing on her own, the relief we felt brought tears. However, she was a very sick little girl, and we spent a week in Boston trying to find out why and treat her. She is now a healthy, independent 24-year-old, but that could have ended very differently had the response time not been what it was. This should not be a village versus village issue. This is a town-wide issue. My mom lives in East Falmouth, I work in North Falmouth and T-Ticket, and we have friends in all parts of town. I don't want anyone to have less than an optimal wait time. How can we close a station without knowing what the response time will be once it's closed? What happens when another station is responding to West Falmouth and is needed in a different part of town? We need to keep that station open until the study is completed and a new station is online. If we need more staff, then we should use the money that Mr. Shearer spoke of at the last meeting or find another short-term coverage until the referendum to support all of the town's emergency needs in full, apparently according to Mr. Mulvey, and hire a full complement of emergency personnel. Thank you very much.
Can I give you guys one of these? Good evening. My name is Catherine Taylor. I was a summer and year-round resident of North Falmouth for over 50 years. I moved to West Falmouth just a few months ago. I'd like to bring your attention to that slide, number 11. It was presented at the community forum, and it was presented with a red line showing half of the town and the deployment that will take place after July 1st. The red line is how it's presented to all of us, but another concerned citizen gave this to me with the yellow line going through it. And I don't think it's very hard to look at this and decipher that there's 2 firefighters, first responders, way up here north. And they're handling the entire north and east section, and the entire, south corridor has 12. That's 2 first responders up here and 12 down here. And that's just a very dangerous situation for the citizens, for our community, for the backup for the firefighters. We all know that the traffic in the summer, it's going to be even more than 15 minutes. I'd also like to mention a comment from the public forum meeting that was said that the Board of Selectmen or the town manager's job is not to tell the fire chief how to staff his department. However, in fact, the Board of Selectmen's job is to set policy. You could make a policy that we're not going to enter into a dangerous situation for our firefighters or citizens by closing any village fire station. Therefore, the policy could state no station will be closed until a new station is built and/or new firefighters are hired and trained. Then the chief can figure out how to do the actual staffing within that policy, which is doable with the current staff for the short term. In closing, I'd like to point out that safety for our community should be your top priority. That should be where you set policy. If you allow response times to be greater than 4 to 6 minutes, the national standard, you're negligent. You are knowingly putting people in danger. It was stated at the advisory meeting that the majority of you, 3 out of the 5 for the record, are against closing a fire station in Falmouth. Therefore, you should be able to vote and make a policy to not allow unfair allocation of first responders and unsafe situations for the town of Falmouth. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment today?
Maybe 2 or 3, I don't know. Maury Harlow Hawks. I know you cannot answer any questions, so I'm going to give these to you so you can look at them. The forum was very informative. I thank you for that time. Here are the questions for the public and for the selectmen. Does Miss English Braga support keeping West Falmouth Fire Station open? She did not make a comment at the forum. 3 did, 1 against, and one abstention or unspoken. Number 2, will Proposition 2.5 override guarantee that the West Falmouth Fire Station will not close? Number 3, will the chief apply for SAFER grant in case Proposition 2.5 doesn't pass? And we should all know what those dates are. They're coming up quickly. When will Fire Station Advisory Committee be appointed? On November 18th, you announced the creation of this group, and applications had to be in by December 27th. You extended it to January 17th and again to January 31st. Still, no one has been appointed, and there are only 151 days left for West Falmouth Station to be closed. That gives us very little time to think. When will the minutes from October 17th West Falmouth Library meeting be approved and voted? That one I would really like to know, because I think we need those in order for this whole body to know what happened at the West Falmouth Library meeting. When will the study be completed so that the committee and the public can have the information to make recommendations? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment this evening?
And by the way, there's over 1,500 signatures here against closing the station, which I will submit to the record.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Eleanor Ling, and I'm from Precinct 1. And I would like to thank the Board of Selectmen for your commitment and leadership on working toward solutions on climate issues by supporting the Minnesota House Bill H2810, an act to promote green infrastructure and reduce carbon emission. I think we have to all engage in a conversation on how to safeguard our community so that it will be sustainable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Leonard?
Leonard Johnson from Wild Harbor Road in North Falmouth. I would like to thank Steve Rafferty and the Water Department for their very quick response in getting the second test done of the water on Wild Harbor Road and in North Falmouth. And we're all relieved, but especially appreciate the rapid response, and the news release that you all put out was very helpful and very timely, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. That's it for public comment. I guess some folks might want to leave, and I'll give you a moment if you do.
Is your proclamation in your
Yeah.
signature packet? Gavel gets in the way.
Okay.
Just in case you wonder.
Well, we'll have to send her an email to. Right. So next on our agenda tonight, we have licenses, application for a change of manager of an all-alcoholic common victual license, 99 Restaurants of Boston LLC, 30 Davis Straits, Falmouth. Is there anyone here for the applicant? Would you come up to the mic, please? You just identify yourself for us.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Ben Gwynn, the general manager from the 99.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And so, you are the current manager now,
Yes, sir.
and how long have you been doing that?
What, the manager?
Yeah.
For about a year and a half.
And so, why are we seeing the change of manager? I'm not clear on that.
I'm sorry?
Why is there a change of manager, but you're still gonna be the manager?
I'm the general manager, yes. I replaced the other general manager that's name's on the license right now.
Oh, I see. You were one of the managers, and now you'll be the general manager.
Yes.
I see.
You're replacing Dan Truesdale?
Correct.
Okay. And so, have you been a general manager before?
Not for the 99, but for other companies, yes.
Okay. And you know you're the one that's gonna be responsible, personally responsible for all the
Absolutely.
liquor sales?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
I would move approval of the
Change of manager.
change of manager for all alcoholic common victual license for the 99 restaurants in Davis Straits.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very
Thank you.
good. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. And next, we have an application for a new common victual license, Triple MT Group Incorporated, doing business as Le Bonjour, 420 East Falmouth Highway, East Falmouth. Anyone here? Good evening.
My name is Mamadou Diop. I'm the director for Triple MT Group Inc.
Okay.
TBA Le Bonjour.
And what type of business will that be? Just retail food?
Yes, we have a to-go restaurant, healthy food, international cuisine.
Okay.
We took over last year at this time, and we just purchased the place, and we just get renewed by the landlord for 5 years.
Okay. And so you're the manager?
Yes, I'm the owner,
Okay.
one of the owner.
Oh, you're the owner and manager?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the board?
I've been there. Food is very tasty.
Thank you.
Okay.
I move approval.
Okay.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. I guess you're all
Right.
set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Application for a new common victualler license, Moto Pizza LLC, DBA Moto Pizza, 500 Walkwood Highway, East Falmouth. Is the applicant present?
Yes.
Welcome. Hi.
Hi, Dante Del Grasso, owner of Moto Pizza. And we were here about a month ago getting our all alcohol victualler's license. Didn't realize they were tied when the previous owner didn't renew, so we got hung up in that, and now we're here again.
Okay. So you're still waiting on the all alcohol license?
Yeah, that'll be February.
That's because of the ABCC, not because of us, or is that?
It all stems from the previous owner not renewing the license. Wasn't able to transfer, so now we have to do a new one.
Gotcha.
Any other questions from the board?
Move approval?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Best
Very
of
good.
luck.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Okay, next, administrative orders, transfer care and control of Andrews Farm to Agricultural Commission pursuant to Article 38 of the April 2018 town meeting. Is there anyone here? Welcome.
I'm not from the AgCom, but Leonard Johnson again. I was on the board of the 300 Committee, and we were involved, as Sam was, I believe, in the discussions for the agriculture, folks from the agricultural community when we were trying to develop a process for continuing to farm at Tony Andrews Farm. And it was clear at that time to those of us who attended some of those meetings that there was a good deal of good leadership in the agricultural community, and that reestablishing and revitalizing the Ag Commission made a great deal of sense. As you may recall, that when Tony Andrews Farm was purchased, it was under the aegis of the Concom standing in as the default group, if you will, until this actually happened. And so it's a welcome process, and I know most of the people on the commission from those discussions, and I'm sure they're going to do a good job. I'd like to point out that one of the great barriers for engaging in agriculture on Cape Cod is the cost of land. It's prohibitively high. And so this was a major effort on the part of the town to overcome that obstacle with funding from the town itself, voted by town meeting, from the CPC, from the state, a major land grant, and from the donors of the 300 Committee. 300 Committee holds the conservation restriction on the parcel.
Right.
But this, I think, has been a win-win for everybody, and I just wanted to, again, call recognition to that group. They're fully capable of doing what they need to do.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
I would move that we transfer the care and control of the Andrews Farm to the Agricultural Commission, following
Second.
the recommendation of Article 38 that was voted unanimously at the April 2018 town meeting.
And I have a second from Sue. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So
Great
moved.
asset.
Hearing?
Okay, signed warrant for a special state primary on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. Any discussion on that?
I just had one question as to, I noticed that precinct 2 is still listed as at the senior center, the John DeMello Senior Center. And wondering, is that for all three of these, can we not go back to Gus Canty, or can we not go to the new senior center?
I believe that Town Clerk Michael Palmer prefers the existing old senior center, John DeMello Senior Center. It works well, has a standalone parking lot, and I know I've had a conversation with him,
Okay,
and he's most interested in maintaining that venue.
for the foreseeable future, for these three?
At least for these three.
Okay.
You know, and then as things further evolve, that can be taken under advisement and further discussion.
So these would just be for the two elections on the same day, March 3rd, and then for
Correct,
March 31st?
and then March 31st.
Okay.
Right.
Right, so for potentially for the April, or the May election, we may be a different location at that point.
I'm certain that Mike will be happy to discuss that. And he might be willing, and I know there was an informal conversation with some representatives of the veterans group that's had a discussion with us, as well as a town meeting regarding that building. And they indicated a willingness to be supportive of elections continuing to be held there, if that would be the desire of Michael Palmer. And again, I know that that's a venue that's worked very well for him in the past, so, but we'll be happy to engage Michael in continued discussions on that.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And do we need to separately vote all three of these, the presidential primary and the
Yes, I
state
do.
election? Okay. Okay, so B, sign the warrant for state primary on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And we'll finish up these election things, and then we'll get to our 7:30 meeting. Next, we'll sign the warrant for the presidential primary on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2020.
Move approval?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And sign the warrant for a special state election on Tuesday, March 3rd, 31st, 2020.
Move approval?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you.
So now we'll move to our 7:30 public hearing, application for transfer of all alcohol common victualler license and new application for an entertainment nut license. Norwood 77 Incorporated, doing business as The Conference Table, 205 Worcester Court, Falmouth. Good evening.
Hello, Michael Clark.
And Mr. Clark, are you going to be the new owner?
I would like to be the new owner, manager, yes.
And have you been in the restaurant business long?
Yes, I've, since 2000, I was a bartender at the Flying Bridge on Falmouth Harbor. And for the last 12 years, I've been the co-owner of the Kettle Ho in Katuitt.
Oh, good. Nice little place. I like that.
Thank you.
Well run. Any questions from the board?
What, if any, changes would you be making?
Just a little cleanup, a little updating. Still going to operate it very similar fashion to it is now.
Similar menu?
Simple menu, yes.
Thank you.
And you'll be the one responsible for all the alcohol?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you have tip certified staff and all the parts you need to make it safe?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Any more questions from the board?
And move approval?
Well, I think we have to ask if there's anyone in the audience.
Any
Oh,
comments
that's
from the
right. This is
public
a
on this
hearing.
application? Anyone to speak in favor or opposed?
Move
Very
to close
well.
the hearing?
There's one.
One person.
Yes, hi. My name is Jim Kowalski. I was Steve Donegan's partner for 15 years at the conference table, and another 11 years after that, I was their bookkeeper, office manager, et cetera, et cetera. We had a great time. It's a good business. I think it's good for the town, and I think Mr. Clark is a very capable person to take over.
Good. Thank you for those comments.
Thanks, Jim.
Move to close the hearing?
Okay, guess not.
And then I guess all those in favor of closing the hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
And now, anyone want to make a motion?
I think you tried to.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
Okay.
move approval. Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck.
And now back to our administrative orders.
One more public hearing?
Another,
Oh, excuse me. Application for a transfer of all alcoholic package store license and pledge of collateral for RJ's Variety and Liquors Incorporated, 174 Sandwich Road, East Falmouth. Evening.
Good evening. My name's Attorney Tom Souza, represent AZK Spirits Group. They're seeking your approval to transfer the license from RJ's Variety and Liquors. The proposal is that they will be taking over the business, buying the real estate as well. I'll tell you a little bit about who I'm standing with. This is the proposed manager, Krishna Timulsina. And he has a lot of experience both operating, regular variety convenience stores. He also has experience in the liquor sale business in the past. The president is also with us tonight, Zohaib Shahid in the back. He also has extensive experience. So we're hoping that you will favorably approve this, and we're open to any questions you may have.
Okay, questions from the board?
And so who will be the new manager of license?
Me, sir. Mr. Timulsina.
And you do not live in Falmouth, you live in Centerville, is that right?
No, sir, I live in the Yarmouth.
In Yarmouth?
West
Right,
Yarmouth,
yes. Mr. Shahid, I just lives in Centerville. Correct.
Yes.
But you still understand that you are responsible for all alcohol sales whenever the place is open, even if you're not there, that you'll be the one that we're coming back to chat with about?
Yes, I do, sir. He will be, his plan is to be there at least 40 hours a week, if not 50, beyond premises.
maybe one comment. We had a violation not too long ago when it was an employee that violated it. So your supervision of your employees is gonna be key, because you're the person who's gonna be responsible, even if your employee breaks the law.
Yes, sir.
So you appreciate that, so.
Yes.
thank you.
So hire carefully.
All right, sir. I will.
Any other questions from the board? And any questions or comments from the public? Sir?
Good evening. My name is Bob Crocker. I'm the owner of RJ's Rider with my wife Judy, and with the help of both family and friends. We have run RJ's for almost 20 years with the explicit help of our son James, who has been a large part of the operation. With heavy hearts, we regret that we are going to move on into retirement. And would like to thank all of our customers who have become friends for their support. And after the many offers, we feel that we chose the right group to take over the operation. Thank you.
Congratulations on your retirement. We're gonna miss you.
Will there be a name change? Because we won't have R&J at the store anymore.
Same name.
They're going to keep the same name.
And that's okay with R&J that they keep the same name?
Bob, that's okay? That's okay that they keep the same name?
Absolutely.
Great.
It's a good name.
Move to close the hearing?
Second.
And, all those in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Thank you.
All right,
Good luck.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So let's close the hearing now and move approval of the transfer of all alcohol package license and the pledge of collateral.
Oh, sorry. Second. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
A little sloppy.
That's fine.
And then, not quite 7:45, so I'm gonna go back to administrative orders E, authorized project eligibility letter regarding 40B comprehensive permit application for, number one, 10 units of affordable rental housing known as Cardinal Place, located at 2 Rebecca Ann Lane, East Falmouth. And, is anyone here gonna?
Peter can comment on that.
Very good.
Yes, so for those who were not familiar with the location, it's off of the East Falmouth Highway, right across from Kenyon's Market. The staff has reviewed this, met a couple of times, and drafted the letter that is in front of you. We are very pleased that this is a rental, that this is an 100% affordable rental, which really aligns well with the town's needs. The unit sizes are 3 one-bedroom, 6 two-bedroom, and 1 three-bedroom, and again, that aligns really nicely with the town's needs as identified in the housing production plan. We've been trying to beat the drum, if you will, with all of the 40B applicants that the needs for Falmouth are for more opportunities for seniors, singles, and individuals just beginning families. So those 1 unit or 2 unit housing, whether it's rental or home ownership, are a particular need, and most of the conventional 40Bs are not meeting that need. So this is an exception, and we're very pleased about that. The staff letter does recommend that you include in your letter to request that all units be visitable and at least 1 unit be accessible. And the one piece of constructive feedback that we have for the developer that we would like to include in this letter is the alignment of the driveways. Currently, the developer proposed 1 entrance, which has some benefits to limit the number of curb cuts, but it does result in a lot of pavement connecting all of the units inside of the roadway, and it would be in keeping with the other units, with the development in that area, to have actually more curb cuts. So we are recommending that the plan be modified to allow more driveways and reduce the amount of pavement.
And I guess that would be subject to review by the planning board as well?
By the zoning board of appeals.
ZBA, okay. Any comments from the board?
Just a question came up about 40Bs, and I guess it's the right time to ask it, as to the profit margin that a developer gets. Is there a limitation to what if they get over a certain percentage, then that automatically reverts to the town? Is that my understanding about 40Bs?
That's correct. I believe, and Tom can correct me if I get it wrong, but my recollection is that the maximum is 20%. So if there's a profit over 20%, that has to be returned to the town.
And who oversees whether that, who's the bookkeeper to make sure that that does come back to the town?
It depends on the particular application. It's either Mass Housing or the Department of Housing and Community Development.
Great, thank you for your.
Sometimes you have, like, the Housing Trust will oversee a project.
Not a 40B, though.
So I think what you're thinking of is the monitoring, so that's
Right.
not, that's not the financial evaluation of the construction financing. That is monitoring the marketing of the housing, so the process of certifying that, that the people who are moving in are eligible.
Okay,
And that
thank
it's
you.
a fair marketing process for that.
And these three all that we're talking about are 40Bs, not LIPs that we're actually supporting or putting forward as the proposal. We're just saying, go ahead. I mean, they don't even need these letters from us, but it gives us a chance to make some input before things get too far down the road.
That's exactly right. So a LIP is a town-sponsored, where, you know, where the town is on record as, you know, sort of from the beginning advocating for the proposal. In this case, the applicant has a right to go forward with a 40B application. This is the town's opportunity to provide input to the Zoning Board of Appeals and to the state regulatory agency as to how we would like to see this proposal modified in the public interest.
Because I'm not familiar with these letters coming from us in the past. I'm thrilled that we're getting our input in way early in the whole process. I think it's fantastic.
Yep, yeah, we have had some we try to have a project eligibility letter for all of our projects. I don't know if, you know, we're perhaps spending more time at the staff level and being more specific in our recommendations to the board, but we appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
And thank you for that.
And so the next one to consider is, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that I am your liaison to the Falmouth Affordable Housing Committee, and this is really nicely worded and really does kind of accentuate the priorities that the town has placed on affordable housing, 40Bs in general. So this is a well-crafted letter, and I'm very much in support of it. Thank you for the hard work, including our planner, town planner, Tom Bott, who's sitting in our audience here, and everybody else that's weighed in on this throughout the town departments.
Then you should make a motion.
Well, then, that,
And we do a separate motion on each of these, A,
Yes.
B, and C?
Yes, please.
and I move that,
Do we need public comment on these?
You
Nope.
don't.
Just for the board
We
to
don't.
work? Okay. Okay, so on number one, any more comments?
anybody, no, I would move that we authorize the town manager to submit this letter on behalf of the Board of Selectmen.
Second?
Or the Select Board. Get the right terminology.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, very good. So the next one, next one's maybe a little more challenging. 12 units of affordable housing located 63 North Falmouth Highway, known as Wing Pond. And in the review, I noticed this one has significant wetlands and some challenges. So would you like to discuss that one?
Thank you, yes. So, again, the location is off of 28A, just north of Thomas Landers Road, and the parcel is significantly impacted by a vernal pool buffer. That's a state-certified vernal pool, and under 40B, while local regulations can be overridden through the comprehensive permitting process and the review by the Zoning Board of Appeals, a state wetland regulation cannot be overridden by 40B, by the developer. So as presented, there are 4 units that are completely within that buffer, the state wetlands buffer. There is another unit that is encroaching on that wetland buffer and would need to be slightly moved. Likewise, the septic field encroaches on the buffer. So this letter reflects that reality, frankly. We want to make sure that the state is aware that their own wetland buffer is not in compliance, that this proposal is not in compliance with the state wetland buffer. So the developer could certainly choose to proceed on this parcel with fewer units, or perhaps reconfigure the units so that it does not encroach on the state wetlands buffer. We have included in this letter some of the other comments that you saw in the previous letter and you'll see in the next letter in terms of the makeup of the units, but really, we have a bigger issue that we need to pass go, if you will, and that's the emphasis.
Right.
So, question, Mr. Chair, so is this something that would be held pending resolution of those issues, or we just forward it, sort of take it or leave it kind of recommendation?
So the applicant has, a right to file an application, and then it goes to, the next step in the process is the Department of Housing and Community Development either issues a project eligibility determination and approves site access, or does not. And I suspect that, and I certainly hope that they will not approve it as submitted.
I see.
And then, again, it sort of could come back. If they reconfigure the proposal, I would think that would be a new application, and then you'd have a new project
So it would be
eligibility
no,
letter.
okay, thank you.
So this is really us alerting them to problems that we see with the project as proposed.
Correct. And the developer is aware they've had some communication with the Conservation Commission on this matter.
Okay.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the project eligibility letter with respect to the 12 units located at 63 North Falmouth Highway, known as Wing Pond.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good. And next we have 32 units of affordable housing located at 511 Brick Kiln Road, East Falmouth, known as Village at Brick Kiln.
Thank you. So this last of the three is adjacent to the Lutheran Church, where the YMCA is in the process of pursuing a facility at that location, also near the high school. The proposal is for 32 single-family homes, and I would emphasize that we had a meeting with the developer early on in the concept planning, which is terrific, because that's before the developer has made a big investment in the designs, and we were very pleased that the developer listened to one of our primary concerns, which again harkens back to the unit makeup. So the original proposal was 3-bedroom units, and they came back with a modified proposal that's 20 2-bedroom units and 12 3-bedroom units. So we, again, pleased to see that it better meets our needs. We do have some other recommendations and requests for modification of the proposal as submitted. The layout is very uniform and covers really the entire parcel. It's a 6.7 acre parcel. Normally, we like to see more clustering of the housing so that it provides more preservation of open space and buffering. Again, we would ask that all units be visitable and at least one unit be accessible.
Sounds right to me. Any comments from the board?
Yeah, I certainly think that is exactly the right kind of recommendation to make, because that's a beautiful undeveloped area kind of north of there that you would like to see it being a natural buffer and, a place where rainwater, can infiltrate into the aquifer, in a nice controlled way without significant amount of runoff. So asking them to respect that and extend some of that and integrate it into that area, I think is a legitimate request.
Another quick question,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair. So with this sort of development, considering, sort of dramatic change for that neighborhood with respect to potentially the Y coming and all that traffic, we already have the high school there, obviously. We have a commercial store. Would this particular development include a traffic study moving forward, or do you know that going into the future?
The traffic impact is something that is addressed in the ZBA's review of a comprehensive permit. So
It will be
I would
addressed.
expect that would be, I can't speak specifically to, what studies might be required, but it's certainly a factor that is addressed in that process.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, sir.
The proximity to the high school certainly raises the question of whether they can tie into the sewer that's actually tied in at the high school, and I saw some comment to that effect, but it seems like we should be exploring that when we have an opportunity to maybe connect that development into the sewer itself and the treatment that we're providing, at such a high level. And then, there's the question of the YMCA facility when it gets hooked up. Can we not see this as a kind of a regional effort here to maybe use whatever infrastructure we have and provide a little bit of wastewater treatment? We certainly have the problem all across Cape Cod, certainly Falmouth is no exception, of just so much of our effluent being put into septic systems, going right into our aquifer, being filtered and treated by nature, but I mean, that's part of the problem we have with the over-nitrification of our estuaries. And it just seems like when we're relatively close to a sewer infrastructure, we should at least take a look at it and see whether it makes sense to take advantage of that and hook these developments up to that sewer.
If we have the capacity at our own plant for the effluent to come out of our plant.
Right.
That's a question that has to be addressed, no question about it.
For both this project and ultimately for the YMCA project also is, when they do have the ability on their property to be able to do it septic, it's which one, which negative is worse? The negative of the effluent or the negative of the into aquifer or the negative of exceeding our capacity? They're both negatives.
They are both negatives, but, that question becomes is, where are we gonna invest in remediating the nitrification of our estuaries, and how are we gonna approach it? And this is one area where we might actually intervene at an early stage and take advantage of our tertiary treatment facility, sewage treatment facility.
And I like that thinking myself, and I think we just have to get ourselves motivated to make sure we get water discharge sites for future planning.
Maybe some
Yeah,
background on the town
Just to
manager.
interject, it may be that a nitrogen reducing septic system would be required for one or both of these developments that we're talking about right now. They're adjacent to the high school. And just as a reminder, my understanding is the extension of the high school was a special permit allowed by the DEP. And it was without the anticipation that there would be a broad wastewater area created as a result. It was strictly to serve the high school. That is part of the special permit. And as I recall, on the high school property alone, there are 2 lift stations that are the burden of the school department and specifically serve their needs. So that would all have to be adjusted, that would all have to be changed. We would have to go to the DEP and petition for a change. It would also, as Selectman Jones has noted, affect our wastewater treatment capacity at the plant, and therefore potentially limit the decisions this board can make about expanding your wastewater connections in your higher density areas like downtown Falmouth. So there are a number of considerations would have to be done, including a significant petition process, which we understand informally is not always welcomed by the DEP.
Interesting. Yes, Sam?
Yes, because I think we need to go back and challenge the DEP for, they are also responsible for the nitrification of our estuaries, for monitoring that and for enforcing it. And so it seems to me, they need to take a look at this and decide, what's the most acceptable way for us to handle our effluent. And that's not a simple solution, and I'm not saying it is, but I think when we have an opportunity like this, we should go back and take a look at it and see whether we can talk to DEP and say, look, you guys take a look at this problem. What is gonna be the best way that you would recommend for us to approach this?
Yeah.
Because it is their responsibility as well as ours.
It's certainly worth thinking about and exploring whether or not it's a possibility, especially given the proximity to Long Pond. I don't know that this is a watershed contributor to Long Pond, but it's certainly in the area.
I believe it is, it may be a water, I shouldn't conjecture. I'm not sure if it's a watershed contributor to Long Pond. I do know it is outside of the Zone 2.
Right. But it's a big project. Okay, any other comments? Yes,
Very,
Doug?
very minor one, a comment I'd like to remove from the 3rd paragraph.
The word "in"?
The comma.
Oh, the comma in the 3rd paragraph? Okay.
And the second to last sentence, units that are barrier-free and handicap accessible were also identified as a need.
Thank you. There's also a stenographic error in the 2nd paragraph, 2nd line. We will be deleting the word "in".
Yes.
Any other comments before we potentially vote? Is there a,
I move approval as edited.
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is letter F, execute a letter of intent, LOI for Phase 2 solar voltaic development at the Falmouth Cap landfill. Is anyone here from EDIC tonight? Welcome.
Thank you. I'm Mike DeJono, the Executive Director of the EDIC, and this is Lynn Broderick, who's our administrator. I've got some material. Is that okay to hand out, even though it wasn't, it'll be up on the screen, but it might be
Sure.
easy if
No, it's
folks
fine.
have this in front of them, if you could just pass it down. Thank you. We just got to get this to...
Is that it? Nope. Which one do you want?
Okay.
You
so
got it?
Let me just,
Yeah, hold on. These are yours.
okay. I just got to find the right one, though. While we're looking for the right file here. Oh, okay. And we've got to rotate that around. There. Some of you may recognize this. This is a site plan of the solar array up at the landfill. This was completed and came online basically in mid-2017 in a process that began actually with an RFP in the fall of 2015. And the array generates about 4 megawatts of power. And as you can see here, this is the phase one. And initially, when we put this out, there was also going to be a phase two, which was about 2 megawatts. And that is to be constructed in this particular area of the landfill. The phase two, initiation of phase two. So Citizens Energy was selected in 2016 to develop the phase one solar array. And it's been pretty successful. And the way that works, there's a power purchase agreement with the town. And just to take you through some statistics on this. Now I got to go back and get into the PowerPoint. So since July of 2017, the town has received $1 million in net revenue from the phase one solar array. So that's about $44,000 a month of revenue. In addition, the town has received $213,000 in pilot payments from citizens. That's about $64,000 a year. And the 20-year estimates of the phase one revenue to the town is about $13 million. So it's been a great project for the town and will continue to be a great project. The phase two solar is smaller, as I mentioned. It's 2 megawatts. It was estimated to generate over its 20-year life about $1.4 million of revenue to the town. Phase two was delayed, though, because of the time it took for citizens to get an interconnection agreement with Eversource. And so what happened is their development agreement with the EDIC ran out of time because of that delay in getting the interconnection agreement. And in September of 2019, the Inspector General's office advised the town council and the EDIC that we would have to rebid Phase 2. The timing is critical here because the federal tax credits are declining. They're going to wind down to 22% in 2021, and then they're going to take a big drop to 10% in 2022. And as you recall, it took about 18 months from the time we did the RFP to actually bring the solar array online. We're anticipating it could take another 18 months, and we're trying to get into that 2021 window so that we can still qualify for the 22% tax credits. So we've, the EDIC staff with EDIC counsel, outside counsel, has been working on this. We're scheduled, we've redone the RFP package, and we're scheduled to advertise this week with bids due March 3rd, and we feel that we could have a developer selected by March 18th. And that's aggressive, but I think that's the kind of aggressive timetable we need to make sure that, you know, the project can come online and qualify for those federal tax credits before they take a big decline in 2022. What we need from the town in order to proceed, now we have an intergovernmental agreement with the town, the EDIC does, which governs our use of the landfill. It authorizes us to develop a total of 6 megawatts in terms of a solar array. That, and town council can certainly address that, but that intergovernmental agreement is still in full force and effect. But my understanding is both town council and the EDIC outside council feel that a reaffirmation with the town, reauthorizing us, if you will, or reaffirming that we have, that we need to go out and pursue the RFP and select the developer would make sure that there would be no question under 30B and the bidding procedures that we're about to embark upon. The other thing that the LOI does is it reconfirms the Phase 2 net metering credits. The Phase 2, as it was originally conceived back in 2015 when the EDIC and the town worked on this, is that in Phase 2, 50% of the net metering credits would go to the town. Right now, 100% of those credits go to the town. And then 50% would go to a program for Falmouth low-income residents under the low-income community solar program that the state of Massachusetts has set up. The other features of the LOI are that the town and the EDIC will amend the IGA to reflect the new Phase 2 rent. We're anticipating maybe the rent will be the same as the rent that's talked about in the current agreement that we have, but it might be lower. We just need to agree amongst ourselves that we're going to, you know, whatever those rents are, that we're going to amend the IGA that the town and the EDIC have to reflect those new Phase 2 rents. The town, the EDIC has requested another change in the IGA, and that is that the EDIC be allowed to retain 100% of the rent payments that we receive from the solar developer. Right now, the current agreement calls for a 50-50 split. And in Phase 1, that rent is about $70,000 a year. And in Phase 2, we don't know what the rent will be, but it could be about $35,000 a year, roughly half of what the Phase 1 was. The EDIC is proposing to the town that we be allowed to retain 100% of that for to support the EDIC operations and mission. Currently, the only recurring revenue that the EDIC has is through the rents that we receive from Peter Pan and the Station Grill at Falmouth Station, and all of those rents basically go to operate the station. So we really don't have any recurring revenue. The revenue we're operating on is previous project management fees. And since the EDIC in the town negotiated the IGA back in 2016, the EDIC has undertaken a number of initiatives. For one thing, they've completed the $1.4 million restoration of the Falmouth Station. They've initiated the Falmouth Community Fiber Network Study, which is currently underway, and I think the survey of that of town residents will soon be completed by the end of the month, so we're interested in seeing the results of that. We're going to be sharing that with the board. The EDIC initiated, along with the Falmouth Chamber and Open Cape, the Main Street Connection Program, where we're going to get 60 businesses on Main Street signed up for the high-speed fiber that Open Cape offers. We've initiated a co-working space feasibility study because there seems to be quite a bit of interest on that in Falmouth. And I think most significantly, the EDIC has actually expanded its internal capacity to really get these projects underway and begin strategizing about other initiatives that could be undertaken to strengthen Falmouth's local economy. And that internal capacity was basically hiring 2 part-time staff, Lynn, who's here, and myself. Lynn's been here for a while, and she's been the sort of the staff face of the EDIC. I started back in June. So that's our proposal. I think what's really needed immediately is we'd love to get the board to reaffirm that under the IGA, we're to go out and reissue the RFP with all deliberate speed so we can get this process going. And then, as I've discussed, we have some other elements that we'd like the board to consider.
A great presentation, Mike. So, did I catch the numbers right? Are you looking at adding 100,000 a year to go to the EDIC? Is that a correct summary?
That
The
would-
70 and the 30-ish?
That would be correct.
Okay. And I just want to, kind of reiterate, because I know you weren't here, but when this project initially came about, obviously, I have to mention Jim Fox and Michael Lasso really spearheaded the landfill solar, idea. And the total amount from the work of the EDIC committee that's gone to the town to date is, could you just summarize that number again for me? You went over it in.
Right, the revenue benefits are up
Okay.
there for phase 1, basically $1.2 million since 2017 in net revenue that the town receives basically from Eversource through citizens. That's the difference between what Eversource is paying for the energy that's generated up at the landfill, and then the town uses a certain amount of that energy, and they pay a much reduced rate for that energy, about half a kilowatt hour. So that's the net revenue. That's been $1.2 million since 2017, based on numbers we've received from the town.
Okay, so just broad strokes here. So the EDIC has generated 1.2 million for the town, which otherwise would not have come about because it was a project that was done by the EDIC. And obviously I serve on that board, so I'm just kind of encapsulating a lot of time and information. And at that time, this board, the Board of Selectmen, approved that the EDIC would have a certain amount of essentially the income from the project. And that income right now, is that what number is that?
The income that we received basically from the project is we got a project management fee, and I don't actually recall what that was. That was a one-time fee.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to retain 100% of the rent from phase 1, which is about $66,000 a year. So for,
Okay.
The last 2 years, we've received 100% of that rent, and we've used that to fund operations. Beginning in this coming year, we'll be splitting with the town 50-50. That rent will be up to about $70,000 a year. There's escalators every year.
Okay, and so the EDIC will get an additional, so 30 from that?
If if the agreement stays as it is, yeah, we'll be getting about 35,000 from the Phase 1 rent. So we do have the recurring revenue of that. And I made a mistake. I said the only recurring revenue. I think I meant besides the half of the rent that we receive now. So I
Okay.
apologize for that error.
No, that's why I'm picking it apart a little bit. So, and then the proposal is to add, so that's about, say, 90,000 a year based on those numbers, and you want to, in terms of this description of the request on behalf of the EDIC, you'd be adding another 100 that would fuel the EDIC for the projects that you listed in terms of the workspace and the potential municipal broadband, those sorts of economic development projects.
Yeah, if I'm following, yeah, the proposal would be, the status quo would be, if we do nothing, is that we would receive $35,000 in Phase 1 rent beginning in 2020. And the town would receive the other 35,000, plus or minus. If we were to change the arrangement so that we received 100%, we would get the 70,000. The town would continue to get all the other benefits, we would get the 70,000 in rent.
So it's not an additional 70.
Right.
That's the total amount.
66 becomes the 70 because of the escalating nature of the contract.
But then also the Phase 2 rent would all go to the EDIC, none of it to the town.
Phase 2 rent would, right now, our IGA talks about Phase 2 rent being split the same way.
Right.
So if the Phase 2 rent were 35, because the project's about half the size, we would be getting 17,000, and the town would be getting 17,000 from the Phase 2.
So the agreement that we went through in 2015 was there's 35 right now for Phase 1, and there's going to be 17 for Phase 2. So both the town and EDIC is going to get $50,000, about $55,000 a year, escalating as it went up.
Yes.
And we went through a long time in negotiating that.
Could I just amend that? The first 3 years, the town got zero.
Right.
$100,000 over, the entire revenue went to the EDIC the first 3 years.
Plus-
This calendar year would be the very first year the town begins to have some revenue from that.
From the rent.
From the rent. And so this agreement would eliminate that so that the town would never see any of that revenue, would all go.
And how much has Citizens made during this project?
I don't know what Citizens
We hear
made.
the 1.2 million in Phase 1 and think great things, but Citizens is not doing badly in this project either.
No,
And I don't know what their numbers are, but.
and I don't have those numbers with me.
I'm not comfortable at all with changing the rental agreement that we went through a long time negotiating, and we only this year, for the first time, actually experiencing what we agreed in months and months of trying to negotiate this, and to now switch this with 4 days to go troubles me.
Well, except if I could reply to that, we did base it specifically and with the fact that the EDIC, if there was a proposal or presentation for future projects, the board would consider a higher amount. And I think after these 3 years, or however long ago, this is that initial presentation.
But we haven't gotten anything in rent yet.
I think Sam had a,
Yeah, Mike, what's the mission of the EDIC?
I think we're looking to try to create opportunities to increase the economic viability of the town. I mean, I think the fiber study is a good example of that.
It actually isn't. Actually, the mission of it is to increase jobs. I mean, it's very, very clear, is to increase jobs in Falmouth. It isn't to do Open Cape. It isn't to do fiber. It's to increase the number of jobs in Falmouth.
Yeah, that's the issue I have. I commend the EDIC for launching these projects and for restoring the train station. But aside from the concessions in the train station, which are over and above the operation of the Peter Pan, you haven't really created any new jobs, and that is your mission.
Well,
And so I know I've criticized EDIC before you, Mike, so this is not your thing. But I keep coming back and say, when are you guys going to look? Now, the fiber optic project, yes, that's going to increase jobs in this town. And I think that's right on, that's where the EDIC ought to be. But I kind of would like to see are you guys gonna be able to pick up that project? Is it gonna be feasible before we start renegotiating a contract like this?
And I guess with the fiber optic, I actually think that's something we as a board should have decided is that direction we want to head and use town money to head in that direction, not have EDIC do it. And it always bothered me that we weren't taking either a decision we were in favor of it or against it, but pursuing it as the board, but the EDIC did that. And to have that money, this much money controlled by this quasi-public corporation, I'd much rather have it go like every other group in Falmouth, where they have to go to the finance committee, they go to town meeting, and they get their money that way, than automatically being given over $100,000 to be able to do what they want.
Well, I think that the other side of the coin is that the town was not in a position to do this solar development. The EDIC did that. The town's not necessarily in a position to spend energy and funds on things like Sam was just talking about, the municipal broadband, bringing more jobs to Falmouth by being able to work at home. That's obviously an attraction. Having workspace, parallel idea to having the, being able to work at home. The EDIC is not an employer. It's not a hospital. It's not a gas station. It's not a store. It doesn't literally employ folks. What it does is it fertilizes opportunities and creates, sort of attractions for people who do those things to come to Falmouth as opposed to many other choices, sort of like the Chamber of Commerce. So that's the concept.
If I could, again, I think the request here, the ask here is, I think it takes resources to develop the kinds of projects that you're talking about. And I think with an all-volunteer board, I mean, to get these initiatives off the ground just in the last 3 months, it's taken a lot of time, and I don't think these initiatives would have gotten off the board with an all-volunteer board. So the EDIC has taken the money that it's had in the bank from previous projects and project management fees and spec some of that money to get some of these initiatives off the ground. The question is that sustainable? And I don't think it is sustainable over the long run. I think we need recurring revenues, and given the benefit stack here, where the town has benefited $1.2 million from solar revenue and a couple of $100,000 in pilot payments from citizens generated from the landfill. I'm not sure what other reuse of the landfill would have generated that same kind of revenue for the town. So, I mean, I think the town has done really well by the project here, and I think what the EDIC is saying is, and my understanding is, I think, Susan, you made reference to this at the time this was all discussed. The thought was come back with some programs. The EDIC has kind of invested its reserves in going forward with some of these programs, but that's not sustainable. That is going to run out. And I think if the town isn't going to fund the EDIC, we have to look for these kinds of things for recurring revenue in order to continue working on these things. And I think, I've only been here a brief time, but I think my understanding has been that the EDIC has always looked to cooperate with the town. This is a picture of cooperation between the town and the EDIC. I mean, it's a great partnership. And we'd like to do more of this, no question.
Mr. Chairman, just to interject, my understanding is that there's a time sensitivity on the RFP process, and I'm wondering if the board might well consider giving a green light for the RFP process to move forward with the EDIC. Having said that, the handout that we just received is this first time I've seen it. Hadn't received this earlier, and at least a few of the financial projections that are in here are at variance with information I've received from our finance director earlier, and I'd like to have the opportunity to review those with finance director and affirm those back to the board before you make any decision about going back and eliminating what you'd already agreed to in phase one and starting over.
Would that be feasible for you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You know, again, the main thing we want is the green light to get the RFP out on the street, get the process started, and we're happy to come back and do a deep dive into some of the other issues, for sure.
Okay. And any other thoughts from the board on that?
Great idea.
Happy to support that.
Yeah, same here.
Okay.
So, how do we word that?
And I would entertain a motion to approve the RFP at this time, and then we'll,
To approve the issuance of the RFP.
The issuance of the
That would
RFP.
be
and then
agreeable,
we'll
Mr.
take up
Chairman.
the issue of the assigning the funds later.
So I will move the issuance of the RFP.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you. We get what we need? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Did Frank get some? Yeah.
Comment,
Uh,
this
Chair?
is a letter of agreement that they submitted to, a letter of intent that they submitted to you. And it does say in here, this letter of intent is an expression of intent only and does not constitute a binding obligation of any kind. So by agreeing to this letter of intent, you authorize them to go forward with the RFP, but you leave open all of the issues in this for further debate, okay?
Right.
Okay, so I guess I
Thank you.
wasn't aware that we were voting the letter of intent. I was voting,
I
I was
think you have-
authorizing the
I thought we were doing the
submission of the RFP.
No, the RFP goes up, we don't do an RFP, they do the RFP.
Okay, then I'll
Okay, so
amend
it-
my
yeah.
motion, so it's the letter of intent.
I will
Is
not
that
vote-
what you're looking for?
I will not vote for that, though.
Mr. Chairman, could I just ask the town council, could not this board authorize the issuance of the RFP by the E EDIC?
Well, yes, you can do that, but they're ultimately responsible for it and for its terms too, so.
That's fine.
But you can do that.
But that would be outside of needing to go forward with this LOI at this
Right.
moment.
Right, that
But
was
the
the intent
LOI
of the
basically
motion.
says that's what they're going to do, so.
Right.
However, it has terms and conditions in there, even though it says they're subject to debate, they're written and they would be voted on, and I would be very uncomfortable with some of the information that we just received, that the board might not have the full picture financially
Then we can always come back.
in advance of that vote.
Question, are you talking about the RFP still?
No, this document that's in our packet,
Right.
called the
we're-
LOI.
Okay, we're just trying to get the RFP out at this
Items number
point.
5 and 6 change what you voted 3 years ago.
Right, but we're only trying to get the RFP out with this.
Yeah,
vote.
that's all I've advocated, I'm in
That's
agreement
all-
So I
with you.
guess then, we're not really signing anything here today. We're gonna just make a vote that
You're
we
making
authorize you to proceed with the RFP, and then we're gonna take this up. at a
Can we do that if
And
it's
I
on our
think that,
agenda?
Mr., there may be a suggestion here
Yeah, it's related.
that the the letter of intent be limited to the first 3 paragraphs.
Maybe do 4.
Or the first 4 paragraphs, which basically authorizes them to go through the RFP process, and it commits the town to cooperating with them in the RFP process, including the necessary engineering work and the associated work, leaving all of the other issues from 5 down, which are the financial issues, for further negotiation.
That's my motion. Good job, Frank.
I'll second that.
Okay, then, any more discussion?
Can I have 30 seconds?
Sure.
May I ask a question about 4? Does not 4 put a stake in the ground?
What
Depending
Ford-
on the RFP that one receives, it will mandate that your financial agreement for Phase 2 be directed accordingly? It reflects the rent agreed to by the Phase 2 developer. So it seems to me that by including number 4, you're confirming that whatever the developer, the successful developer determines is what you're gonna be, is gonna determine the rent received for this project.
That doesn't have to do with the percentage,
Yeah,
though.
that doesn't change the split, it just changes the rent.
Right. Aren't you concerned about a third party outside of your control determining what that rent is without you seeing it in advance?
It's a bid.
I am.
So an RFP is a bid, so if somebody's gonna put in a bid, they have a right to accept it or reject it.
Part of the process.
We were the ones who
But these
were
selectmen do not
involved in
have that
choosing the
right.
rent the first time.
We're authorizing them to negotiate.
You know, if you don't like 4, well, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, make a comment.
If you don't like 4, we don't need 4. But we do need 1 through 3, because basically 1 through 3 gives us the cover that we need to regenerate the RFP.
And then on number 12, then we would strike that, and, because
We're only doing
12
one through three.
We're only doing 1 through
okay,
3.
right.
Question for town council. Can they go forward with just the support of us to go the RFP? Do they need the LOI to do this?
I don't know that I can really answer that question. It's been represented to me by their outside counsel that they would like to have the LOI in place for purposes of going forward with the RFP. The actual reasons, I don't know.
And having only a partial LOI is okay?
Well, an LOI is anything that's within it. So if you vote an LOI subject to all 12 conditions, that's one thing. If you vote it subject to 3, that's the LOI they have to deal with.
So when there's still things outstanding that need to be negotiated, it's not much of an LOI.
It gets amended.
Well, it's not gonna be amended, it's not gonna state anything about rent.
No, it's not.
Right.
That
So it's not
leaves
amended,
It leaves it to be discussed later.
Right, but I'm saying, right now, it's just the first 3.
It's an understanding, is the way I look at it. At this juncture.
I'm okay with the first 3.
Yeah. So can you amend your motion?
I did already.
Okay.
We were
Second.
just waiting for Doug to have a
Well, no,
chance
because
to look.
your
No,
amendment
you
was
had
the first
1
4.
through 4,
Oh, I'm sorry, right, yes, so 1 through 3.
and I'll second 1 through 3.
Okay, then all those in favor of amending the LOI to 1 through 3?
Aye.
Aye.
Very good, thanks.
Thank you.
Great.
See you soon. Fix tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Do we need to sign both copies of this?
Probably 1 for each side.
How about we'll reissue it in an appropriate form, unless you just want to cross out?
Well, that's
That's
what I
what
did
Doug
on
did.
one,
Okay,
but we have
okay.
2 copies of the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be all right.
We typically only have 1 copy, right?
Yeah, ideally, but I think having 2 is helpful. in
Each
this
side
case.
needs 1.
Yeah. Thanks, Doug.
I guess we're ready to hear from the Affordable Housing Committee report.
Sorry, it goes up.
Thank you for your patience.
Ed Curley, 36 Meadowview Drive. You have a written copy of the report, I think, in your packet.
We do.
I just highlight a couple of things. We did one of these during the summer as well. I'm not quite sure why it came up 6 months later. I guess fluke of the alphabet, and I'm head of a committee starting with A. But the report that I did just mentions it. We have an interview coming up next on the agenda, and if that candidate is appointed to the committee, it'll give us a full 7 members for the first time since I've been on the committee, almost 8 years ago. It's great step forward, I think, since a year and a half or so ago, we didn't have enough members to even have meetings. We couldn't get a quorum. So the interest in affordable housing and the interest in our citizens in participating in the committee has been great, and the support of the selectmen and town staff has been great. As you know, we have the housing production plan that was referred to, key in helping us move forward in meeting our need for housing that's affordable for our workforce and our seniors. I was amazed by the number of units that you discussed earlier in the meeting. I was only aware of two of those 3 projects that are in process, but add those 54 units to the ones that are being built now out in Spring Bars Road, and Gifford Street, and Brick Hill Place, a little further up the road from the one you were talking about, and we're really making some progress, I think, in town. We need to keep it up. We need to get 74 units a year online in order to be able to fulfill our requirement, meet our 10% requirement, and be able to ward off hostile 40B developments if we so choose. So the committee, Affordable Housing Committee, tries to help out in whatever way the Select Board asks us. We do have a member on the Affordable Housing Fund Working Group, which is key in helping provide the CPA money, analyzing the applications that come in there. We held a very successful housing summit last fall, attended by over 100 people, to try and educate and inform the community about who the folks are that are in need of affordable housing. There are town residents who can't afford to stay in town unless we go out of our way to support and subsidize the housing. We have another summit planned for May 20th. We haven't quite started beginning the detailed planning of it, but we have the date down and the room down, so we'll get to work on that soon. It's been a joy working with Carla Ferroni, and I can't say enough about what she's brought to the table in town, and just want you to be aware of that. That sort of sums up my report.
Good, thank you.
One quick comment on the 6-month report, and I'm partly responsible for the new schedule. It will be 12 months now that we ask you again, but
Oh, okay.
just trying to get this in process. Everyone comes once a year, and you got moved up the first time to 6 months, but then we don't need to hear from you again until next January, I think is what our plan is.
Unless there's
From now
something
on.
interesting.
Exactly.
Right, but as the annual report, it would just be, but of course, come to us anytime you need to.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay, well, is that it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you
Thanks,
very
Ed.
much.
Thanks for your work.
Thanks to everyone who came, too. It's huge.
Now, if we could just get one more member on that committee.
Well, almost.
Yeah, we're going to. Now we'd like to interview Carrie Walton, right?
Yeah, I'm Carrie Walton.
Hi.
I live in Woods Hole.
And what makes you want to be on this committee?
I've been to several of the meetings, and first of all, I think Ed's terrific chairman for it, so it's a pleasant place to be, and people get a lot done. I was impressed by how much work volunteers do. Volunteers, people that have lives. And I think affordable housing is really important. I think it's important that young people be able to live in their hometown, and they really can't, not on the Cape.
That's a great reason.
So,
Any questions from the board?
No, just to say thank you for stepping up and
Okay.
pitching in. We're so really well off because of all of the volunteers to all of our committees. So this is just one of about 40. And there's some significant contributions being made by many of our committees to the welfare and the prosperity of this town. So thank you.
For housing, you're the cherry on the sundae.
That's right.
I would just like to comment on, once again, the appreciation to the League of Women Voters, because their observers often end up being signed by the League of Women Voters and then join the committees. It's just another way of getting
right,
more
and now I
interest
have to
involved.
be an observer on another committee.
Great.
All right.
I would move appointment of Carrie Walton to the Affordable Housing Committee, term ending
6/21.
6/30/2021.
Second.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much.
Okay, interview applicants for the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee. Jim Bourdon. Jim here? Hey, Jim. Yes, please. Good evening.
Good evening.
And so tell us a little bit about why you want to be on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, please.
Okay, well, lived in Falmouth full-time here, the last 4 years, retired here. I jogged for probably 35 years until my knees said no more, and now I'm bicycling full-time, really 5 days a week. And I had at least 3 near misses last summer, and with cars, and I can see how riding, and you read about bicycles crashing into cars or cars crashing into bicycles quite a bit during the summer. And I'm very concerned about that, both personally and for the town. And also walking around town. I do a lot of that. My wife walks all over the place around town. And we're both want to see improvements in the safety for both bicycles and walkers.
Okay.
So that's the primary reason.
Other questions from the board? Okay, well, if there's no more questions, there are 3 more applicants. Is there anything else you want to share with us?
Nothing else.
Okay, well, thank you then.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll have to hear all the other applicants first. Thanks.
And we're only gonna hear 3 tonight, right?
I believe so.
The
David
fourth.
Lafreniere? Okay.
Good evening. I want to thank the board for inviting me here tonight. I share the sentiments of our first applicant. He had mentioned that last year he was, had 3 near misses. Last summer I had, well, 2 incidents. They were not misses. But I am here to speak to you tonight. It is one of my concerns that our roads are quite dangerous for both cyclists, pedestrians, and drivers, frankly. So you have a vacancy on the board. I feel like I'm uniquely qualified as a cyclist, pedestrian, and driver to lend my expertise. I ride about 2,000 miles a year on the roads of Falmouth and the Cape. I currently lead a Monday night ride out of Corner Cycle, and besides the recreational aspects of that, one of my goals is to try to educate my riders in safety techniques as well as their rights and their responsibilities. Oftentimes we hear anecdotal evidence about the things that cyclists are doing wrong on the road. It's not everybody, it's just the same thing happens with drivers. When a driver doesn't use his directional, he may not think that's a big deal, but to a cyclist, that's a life and death decision. So my big drive would be to improve some education as far as cycling on our roads and on our bike path. As far as pedestrians, I live in West Falmouth, and I see a couple of my neighbors here. And I sit at the West Falmouth Market in the summertime and eat my lunch. And that intersection scares me. We have people coming from the bike trail, both cyclists and pedestrians. There's a lot of action between delivery trucks and customers at the West Falmouth Market. And Route 28A, there are some drivers that drive much too fast there. So it's just a matter of time before there's an incident there with a driver or a pedestrian. So I see that as a place where I feel like pedestrians need to be protected. And I'm not sure what the remedies are, but I'm looking forward to meeting with the committee. I've been to a few meetings already and discussing some of these things.
Okay, thank you. I did see on your application that you have attended meetings, and I've actually seen you there. So.
Yep, thank you. Any questions or?
Any more questions from the board?
Good interview.
Thank you.
Okay, Thank you. Next, for the same committee, Martha Pendergast. Is Martha here? Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm Martha Pendergast. I live in West Falmouth on Chase Road. And since I moved to Falmouth in 1990, I've been a big fan of the bike path and use it frequently. I have served on the Falmouth Historic Districts Commission before my daughter was born. And now that she's off in college, I thought it's time to do some service to the town. And the bike path is very close to my heart. I don't have any particular goals for the committee other than ensuring that the bike path remains for not just the bike path, but cycling in general, or pedestrians as well as bike ways are safe and accessible to everyone, and that whatever issues come up to the committee, I'm a very good team player and very willing to work together to ensure that the committee has a positive impact.
I have one question. I could have asked any of the three, but you get to be last. We have a vacancy, we have one vacancy, and we have 4 applicants. Why? Was there somebody who was drumming up the...
I got an email.
What happened that all of a sudden we have 4 applicants for one position?
I received an email.
Okay.
That said we have an opening, and as I say, since 1990, I've been out there rollerblading, cycling, walking my baby in her stroller, and it's just such an important part of the town, not just on the bike path, but even before the extension was done up by where I live, I've cycled quite a bit around the town. So for me, it's just part of the lifestyle of living here. And it's one of the attractions. I'm also a real estate broker, 25-year career broker. And it's just so important. But for me, my lifestyle, this is at the heart of how I live here, how I choose to live my life. And so, but I know it's important to a lot of people. I think that's true for most people in the town. We see people out walking in the freezing weather. I'm so impressed. I'm not that game, but and just so that it's accessible and safe for everyone, whatever the issues may be, I'll do my best to help resolve them. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. We have one more applicant, Neil Alaru.
He's
Could I be-
able to come on the February 10th,
Oh, okay.
so I think we're gonna,
Oh, so we're not
Hold
not
on.
appointing tonight?
Correct.
right.
Okay, sorry, you'll have to be held in suspense until our final applicant can arrive. Thank you for coming. Falmouth Cultural Council has an application from Jody McGowan. Is Jody here tonight?
We can
Okay.
hold that one.
I would move approval.
Oh,
Second.
that's a better
Non-regulatory.
idea.
Yeah,
I think we have 3 vacancies. And I think they need a quorum to be able to move forward. And I thought her application said she was interested, so that's good enough for me. So I move approval to appoint Jody McGowan to a term ending, I'd go ahead, June 30th, 2022.
second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And thank you.
Thank you.
I had one question about the list we received of vacancies. Am I correct in understanding we have now 19 applicants for the fire station
Looks
committee?
like it to me, yeah.
Yes,
Or somewhere in that number?
yes, in that ballpark.
Okay.
So I guess then we'll be appointing at our next meeting?
That's
Well, you
great.
would need to be interviewing, and it'll be however you might care to proceed, Mr. Chairman.
I would ex-
Appointment that same evening or the following, whatever's your pleasure.
I would hope we could do it that evening, because with 19 applicants, we're likely to get 9 that are ready to go.
I just wonder if we're gonna be able to sit through 19 interviews or guarantee that everyone can come on that
And if
night.
they can't, then they're gonna ask to come the next week, and
Right.
it's gonna be delayed. Oh, we'll see how it goes.
We'll leave that up to Mr. Spraga.
Mr. Johnson's job, I have a suggestion.
Just
you have a suggestion?
very minor procedural point, which is that the board had previously announced that the applications would be closed on the 17th, and then it was announced at the forum that the deadline to accept application would be reopened. And I wonder if the board might entertain just announcing tonight that applications are closed. as of tonight, given the number that you have.
That's a good point.
So
Or do you want to
moved.
carry them to the end of the month, till Friday at least? I think that's what's on our website, January 31.
It
Well,
is.
that's just,
Sorry, is that
that's
right?
just a short period of time. I don't think we should change it at this point.
Okay,
Well, you might want to affirm it, though.
Right. I think it was announced by our chair without actually us having voted and affirmed it, but I'd be comfortable with retroactively affirming that it is open till the 31st.
Second.
okay.
Just to make all the other applicants official that received after the 17th.
Makes
Right.
sense.
Right.
Partly because if we stopped at the 17th, we would not have enough to have a committee.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so is that a motion and a
Yep.
In a
Second, yep.
second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So then we will
Good idea.
close the application acceptance period on January 31st. Very good. Okay, vote articles and execute warrant for April 2020 town meeting.
Can I just bring up a general thing?
Yes.
You know, we're moving toward making a change from selectmen to select board,
Right.
and I don't see any reason why we shouldn't start making that change, and that would be general throughout. And I might say that at the Massachusetts Municipal Association annual meeting, they took a position to do that, and there are already more than 30 municipalities across Massachusetts that have already essentially changed their charters to refer to themselves as the select board.
Okay.
So,
In concept, I agree with you, but the town has not actually voted that change at the town election, which needs to be done in May to actually make that charter change.
right.
I think we certainly individually can refer to ourselves as that, but I would think in the official town warrant document, we
Okay.
actually technically still have to be the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
I'm unfortunate.
No, I hear you. And I might say that that motion basically created, they said that the select board terminology would be the synonym for Board of Selectmen, because there are going to be so many municipalities that will continue to use that terminology, and they didn't want, in the middle of midstream, suddenly create a new classification, if you will, without giving people the time to decide whether they want to do that or not. So
Right.
it really was allowing both terminologies, but, okay, but I think that's a good point. So I withdraw my suggestion then.
Okay. All right, vote articles. So, Article 1. You want to read the header here? And then the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are directed to notify and summon the inhabitants of the town of Falmouth qualified to vote in the town affairs.
I would think for a matter of efficiency, we could probably add a bunch of these articles by a quick summary as opposed to reading through them.
Okay?
I agree.
So Articles 1 through 6 have to do with settling claims and our boilerplate ones that we usually put in, and I would move that we add those articles to the warrant, Articles 1 through 6.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Can I ask a question about Article 7, since we're there? We use the acronym TAM employees, and I don't know what that means, and I think that needs to be spelled out for the rest of the town meeting members.
Technical, administrative, and management.
Yeah, so I would suggest that we edit that.
Agreed.
And I would move that we are at Articles 7 through 16. These are articles dealing with our budget, the operating budget and the additions to it and the different funds that we have. Actually, just Articles 7 through 13 is the ones I would suggest we add to the article.
Yes, that's good. And
Second?
I second that
All right,
through
all in favor?
13. Aye.
Aye. Okay, Article 14. See if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for the purpose of hiring 8 additional firefighters for fiscal year 2021, contingent upon voter approval of Proposition 2.5 override, a ballot question.
I think that's worth voting on separately, and I would move approval to include that in the warrant.
Second?
All those in favor?
Do we want to have any discussion about that, just because a question did come up at this evening about the effect of that, and that does not guarantee staying the West Falmouth Fire Station open.
Well, it's a separate issue, but
This is,
Right.
certainly it's for the same cause, of improving fire safety in town.
but, that's not something that we have to settle tonight.
I agree.
And so therefore, I think that's something we defer to town meeting to actually work out if they want to see some variation of this. But at least it's putting that out there. And let's give town meeting a sense to
Okay.
look at it and decide whether they want to amend it.
And I appreciate what Sam said, but I think everyone will agree that if there wasn't a proposal to close the West Falmouth Fire Station, this article might necessarily not have been here. This certainly was the impetus.
Yes.
The point I'm trying to make is, we could pass this and still not have the firefighters we need to keep it open. And it just cannot go lockstep, that if this passes,
It's
that
not
means the
what it
West Bath
says.
Station. I
It's
know.
not what it says.
I understand that,
Well,
I'm
that's
just,
true, but it's certainly, in my opinion, it's an improvement of fire service.
I
so.
couldn't agree with you
For
more.
the whole town.
Yep,
And it is the recommendation of our fire chief.
right.
Do we vote that?
I don't think we
Haven't
voted on
voted
it.
it yet?
Okay.
We got a motion?
I moved it.
And I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Article 15, see if the town will vote to transfer sum of money within the FY 2020 budget approved by Article 6 of the April 8, 2019 town meeting to make necessary adjustments thereto, or do or take any action on this matter.
I get, by ignorance, if, I could understand the difference between Article 15 and 16.
15 would allow transferring existing funding between accounts, and 16 would appropriate additional dollars.
And we don't know if, these are both placeholders for things that we may.
Correct, that we frequently anticipate, but
Not that we have.
take on a day-by-day basis.
But nothing that we have in place already that we're expecting.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm
So
going
I'll
to
move
move
that.
15 and 16.
Second. Exactly what
All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 17, to see if the town will vote to amend the Code of Falmouth, 137, Section 137-1, Departmental Revolving Funds by adding a Senior Services Revolving Fund and a Shellfish and Agriculture Revolving Fund, and vote the spending limits for all revolving funds according to the bylaw and as follows.
I move adding Article 17 to the warrant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 18, to see if the town will vote to amend the official zoning map by rezoning the land shown on Falmouth Assessor's Map, Parcel 39, Section 21, 005A, Lot 000, from Single Residence District C, RC, to the Public Use District, PU. Said land located at 300 Dillingham Ave is the site of the former senior center totaling approximately 1.6 acres, or do or take any other action on this matter.
I would move adding Article 18 and Article 19, which is transfer the property from the school department to the town.
Second.
Very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 20, to rezone parcel 15042764 Technology Drive from public use to light industrial B, or to do or take any other action. On
Article
petition of
20, 21 are
Michael
both
DiGianno.
petitions articles having to do with that issue. I would move we add those articles to the warrant.
Second.
Okay. What was that motion? Just 20?
Moving 20 and
21.
And 21.
And 21.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 22, see if the town will vote to accept the doings of the Board of Selectmen in laying out the following road. That's William Road, and further appropriate some money for this purpose.
I move adding Article 22 to the warrant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 23, to see if town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to lease land in the Falmouth Village area for municipal parking purposes, which land shall be determined and selected by solicitation of proposals. And that is the one uptown, is that?
Well, that's for the alternative sites. We're going through
Yes, could be
an
on.
RFP process for that.
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
I
Could be
move Article,
one, could be more than one.
I see.
I move Article 23.
And the RFPs will be in after we do this first, then do the RFP, so we can't come to town meeting with the lands in front of them.
It's unlikely, although we're working on the RFP now,
Okay.
just based on the general representation, that the town meeting would feel positive toward that being considered. But as you note, Selectman Jones, we may not have that locked down
Okay.
by April, but we are in process.
Thank you.
Okay, so
hold
Article
on.
23, is there
I moved Article 23.
a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Article 24, to see if the Board of Selectmen will be authorized to lease or sell the single-family house at 398 Old Meeting House Road, Assessors Parcel 21-816-03A. It's part of the property, it's part of the Tony Andrews Farm.
I move we add Article 24 to the warrant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, you need to read all of Article 25, please, Mr. Chair.
Pretty long, we'll just get an idea of what it is here. See if the town will vote to amend the Code of Falmouth and adopt the following bylaw. Chapter 60, security posted in connection with licenses, permits, and approvals. That's rather long and lengthy. Anyone want to make a motion for that?
I'm going to move Article 25.
There are some typos. And this is one where I think we need to go back and think about it, but they're using GL, but isn't it usually MGL for
Either
Massachusetts
one is
general
fine.
law? Either one is
But you're right,
acceptable?
it is incongruous. We have MGL in 23 and GL in 25. They should pick one.
Yeah, and I think most people know it as MGL. When I looked at the GL, I said,
Yep.
what's that?
And
Well-
then in one then, is that section 53? As opposed to, I thought Mass General laws always had chapters, oh, it's chapter 44.
Right,
Chapter
and it's-
44,
yeah,
section.
so that's fine.
Right. But maybe we can make a blanket change and make it all consistent?
Could
That
either town
Peter-
manager or our town council, who I guess is not here, or our lawyer on this, what's this about?
This is improving the Selectmen's and Conservation Commission ability to secure bonds for a wider range of items for which you need to guarantee performance.
Okay, so this is for both for the selectmen and the conservation commission? you said?
Yes. And actually, it's even broader than that. It
Yeah.
says, but those are Selectmen and Concom are specifically noted, but all town officers, boards, and commissions would be so benefited.
Ultimately, the AgCom could also, if they're gonna be taking on some of these these properties.
Could be benefited as well.
Has to do with the performance assessment.
Any other typos?
No,
Okay, just the MGL?
yes,
Okay.
Yep.
So I made the motion. Need a second.
I'll second. Sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Article 26, see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition Mass General Court for special act to remove all personnel from the Falmouth Police Department from the provisions of Mass General Laws, Chapter 31, the Civil Service Law.
I move we include Article 26 in the warrant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 27, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept the donation of parcel of land containing 29,440 square feet, more or less, which is located on Catherine Lee Bates, as referenced to the 300 Committee Land Trust. This is for adding to the Shiverix Pond project.
I move that we include Article 27.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 28, see if the town will vote to adopt the provision of the Mass General Law 59, Clause 22nd G, inserted by Chapter 28 of the Act known for the Brave Act. Can I ask a question about this one? These seem to be only related to both these Brave Act, 28 and 29 are both Brave Act. They seem to only address specific clauses in the Brave Act rather than adopt the Brave Act. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I believe that's because there other elements of the Brave Act do not require local adoption. They go into effect simply upon state approval of the legislation.
Oh, would those other acts be with regard to time that servicemen have to go and do their active duty and the compensation from their town jobs? Those,
I'm not certain what the other elements are. I just know that I don't recall, Mr. Suso, I don't know if you recall any conversation with town council about any elements of the Brave Act that we were not bringing forward. My recollection, and we can confirm it, is that there were only a couple of items that required local action, and those are being brought forward.
okay.
That's my understanding as well.
Interesting.
And what's the general benefit that this would bring forth?
Give the property tax exemption
Property
to
taxes, okay.
certain benefited
Yep.
veterans and their families.
Okay, it's just, I think, helpful for me and the public to know the Reader's Digest. Okay, great.
Right.
Thank you.
I move that we include Article 28 and 29 on the warrant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Article 30, create the position of Affirmative Action Diversity Outreach Coordinator.
This is a petitioner's article, so I'd say we don't have much choice, so I'll
And
move we-
Article 31 is the articles for the funding of it, so I would, we add Article 30 and 31 to the warrant.
Second.
And Article 31 would be to vote and raise appropriate $85,000 to fund the Affirmative Action Diversity Outreach Coordinator on petition of Sandra Feynman Silver. Okay, I'll have a motion and a second?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 32, to see if the town would vote to adopt the following general bylaw and to insert it into the code of the town of Falmouth.
As a petition article, I would move that we add
Sale
Article
of
32.
single-use plastic water bottles.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 33, see if the town will vote to adopt the following ban on the sale of miniature single-use containers for alcoholic beverages.
I move Article 33 be included in the warrant.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye. It's a petitioner's article.
Yep. On behalf of the Falmouth Letter Reduction Team. Article 34, see if the town will vote to advise the Board of Selectmen to appropriate $45,000 of free cash to finance water quality monitoring. Petition article on petition of Ron Zweig.
Okay, I move 34 be included.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
35, to see if the town will vote to adopt the following town bylaw to read as follows and be appropriately numbered by the town clerk. Before any building permits for the roofing or municipal building with electric service shall be issued, the roof location shall be assessed for appropriateness of solar collection.
I move Article 35 be included in this warrant.
Petition to Malcolm Donald. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Article 36, see if the town will vote to adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved, the town of Falmouth recognizes a climate emergency driven by human activity, including energy consumption and land use practices, leading to global warming, rising seas, deadly storms.
On petition of Rosemary Carey?
Yep.
Yes, I move that Article 36 be included on the warrant.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Article 37, shall town meeting vote to ask selectmen to ensure the West Falmouth Fire Station remains open and staffed until such time that a new station is constructed, opened and staffed, or take any other action on this matter. Petition to Mark Finneran.
I would move that we add Article 37, but I would actually suggest that we make this Article 15 and have it come after the discussion about the 8 additional firefighters and move all other articles back one.
Agreed.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That was 37. So 38, see if the town will vote to appropriate a transfer from the Community Preservation Fund, some money for restoration and removal of invasive species on Little Pond Conservation Area.
So the next, I guess, 12 articles are all from the CPC.
Yes.
Right?
Move those all at once.
I think so. I agree.
And I guess we could just mention ones.
Yeah, we would mention what they are.
Right.
38 is to remove invasive species. 39 is to construct pickleball courts at Knight Park. 40 is to appropriate money to fund some money for the Rod and Gun Club to rehabilitate and restore passive recreation at Childs River. 41 is to...
For bike path?
Yep,
Extension.
the bike path
Further
extension
north.
into North Falmouth,
Yep.
to the Bourne line, I guess.
Mhm.
42 is capital improvements to Gulf Field. 43 is Shiverick Pond Recreation Trail. 44 is Wacoit Congregational Church. Didn't
Just
Well, that's
Right.
to preserve the historic gravestones at the Bayview Cemetery specifically.
Wasn't there just a court ruling against CPC funds going to churches?
No,
No?
that's been overturned for a long time.
Oh, good, okay.
If this is a historic site,
This would be to the
That-
cemetery
yes.
Okay,
specifically.
all right, very good. 40, Article 45 then is determine how it's...
Inventory of historical resources.
Okay, right?
Yep, go ahead.
46 is a historic structure report for the Edward Marks Building. 47 is,
Engineering services
Yeah,
for
for Trotting
baseball
Park,
fields.
yeah.
Yep.
okay,
At Trotting Park.
and 48 is...
Administrative expenses.
Expenses for the
Administrative expenses. 49 is for the Affordable Housing Fund funding.
So I would move we add Articles 38 to 49 to the warrant.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That does it.
One more small point, the pagination is wrong.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, 10 of 9.
It's all right.
Oh, we slipped that one by you, but
The numbers are gonna get changed
Good catch.
anyway.
I like 11 of 9 as well, that's the next page.
Yeah.
This one
Going
goes to
where no
11.
one's
Consistent, yeah, there we go.
Minutes meeting?
Minutes of meetings, yes, any corrections or comments on the minutes of meetings?
Well, I either was absent or present, but I couldn't be both.
So which would you prefer?
I think I was present.
Yeah, I think you were too.
Does that ever happen to your students in your classes?
Well, it kind of goes back and forth.
Present physically. And since I made some motions, I think I must have been there.
I think you're right. So we'll remove the absent Doug Jones.
After that correction, I would move approval of the minutes of December 9th and the release.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and January 6th. we
They've
did.
already approved.
Okay. And January 15th. One little minor typo, but I don't think it's really important enough to try to find it now.
Anything else?
Move approval of the minutes of January 13th. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Individual selectmen's reports. Anything to report from anyone?
Nope. Okay, well, I have a list of them. You've already, can I go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you've already mentioned the Martin Luther King breakfast, which I thought was quite astounding and definitely motivating, and it was just nice to see such a large crowd there that we're unified in our sense of the importance of diversity and respecting everybody. I attended the beginning of the FinCom budget review process on the Tuesday, and then, as I mentioned, I was at the Massachusetts Municipal Association meeting on Friday and Saturday. I enjoyed participating in the joint, the meeting of the Cape Cod counselors and selectmen, and it's Cape Cod and Islands now, a meeting that we had from 5 to 7, where Sarah Peak gave an update from her perspective on the legislation, and Sue was there too, so chime in, Sue, if you want. John Robertson was there reporting on behalf, he's the legislative liaison for the Massachusetts Municipal Association. I'll call it MMA from now on. And then the next morning, we had a business meeting, and Charlie Baker spoke, and I have to say, it was amazing how much Charlie Baker was tuned into what the Massachusetts Municipal Association is advocating for. But he, his first comments were, I was in your position as local officials, and I hear your pain, or, I understand what your needs are. And he's lived up to it. And his budget was reported for the first time I can ever remember before our meeting. Normally, we're there, and he gives out a few hints of what it's going to be, but this time he could talk to the budget proposal that he had made earlier in the week. So the good news, I think, is that Chapter 70 has been increased throughout the state, and we're going to benefit from it, although not as much as other municipalities, but that's partially due to court rulings. The charter school reimbursement is going to increase, so those compensates us for those students that leave Falmouth to go to the charter schools. Chapter 90, which is our infrastructure here, has been increased. Also, they've invested in, or are proposing to invest, and this is, of course, proposed to the legislature. It has to be worked out, but a significant boost in the municipal vulnerability program, which they're starting to roll out and grow. And I want to make an observation that one thing that Charlie Baker, or Governor Baker, I should say, was pointing out is that there's broad support for this, not on the coast, but in the middle of the state. And he was pointing out that Massachusetts has seen some record levels rains and flooding. And so we're not the only ones along thinking about coastal resiliency. The rest of Massachusetts is facing this, and they're all pointing to the scientific evidence. I know we have doubters that it is due to global warming. And so these changes in weather patterns can be actually related to the increased temperature of the ocean, and that's a pretty good indicator of how the planet is warming at the surface. So, it was very heartening to really be at that meeting and hear all of the support, both at the administrative, executive level, down into, a group like MMA that's advocating for local communities. It was almost an echo chamber, and you could see that the executives for MMA and their various staff members were just really pleased that they have such a strong working relationship with the governor's office. And a lot of credit given to Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito. And they're staying in touch with local communities like ours. I know that Lieutenant Governor Polito, who's been in Falmouth a couple of times over the last year. And it's just nice to see them coming here and listening to us and hearing our concerns. We passed three resolutions, one having to do with increasing local aid, basically at the same level that, same percentage level as revenues to the state, so that it gives towns some predictability as to what their increased state aid will be over the years. I thought that was good. That was unanimous in its vote by the delegations from the various municipalities. The other one was this municipal vulnerability funding. They were basically saying we need a policy to fund these kinds of things across the state. And then there was a support for a gas increase to basically help fund that. And there was, of the three resolutions, that's the only one that had an objection. It was like one or two municipalities. The rest of the probably almost 200 delegates there were in favor of it. But two people got up and object. Basically, no new taxes was the basis of their comments. I think there was a legitimate question raised about increasing the gas tax because they felt like the burden would be unduly placed on people who are forced to commute because they live relatively far from where they work. And so the feeling was, well, they weren't setting any kind of suggested practice or steps, if you will, but they felt like some consideration needed to be made. It was pointed out that the broad language of this resolution allowed for that to take place in the legislative process. So, but that was a fair issue in just generally raising the tax on everybody based on the amount of gasoline that they burn in their cars or vehicles. And then there was a broad support for changing or for allowing municipalities to use the select board approach rather than board of selectmen. And so those were the resolutions, and I basically supported all of those on your behalf. So I hope I didn't.
Thank you.
Didn't go against your wishes. Anyway, it's always interesting to go there and go to the workshops, but I found this one to be particularly encouraging in the level of unity that there was throughout, and people basically seeing the evidence the same way and looking out for the citizens and not necessarily for any particular special interest group. So, pardon me.
I'll only add to that there's been tremendous growth in the Cape and Island Cape and Island Selectmen and Councilors Association. And I think the room was probably at least a third more crowded than even last year. Yeah. And also just overall, just the commitment to the Cape. There are many new councilors, a lot of women have now been elected, and I think that there's been a concerted effort to increase volunteering in municipal positions, and I think that was part of the excitement that Sam's alluded to, so I think it was noticed as well.
Well, I might say that along those same lines. I went to the Women Employee, WEMO is the acronym, right. Women Employee Municipal Office, and well, however it translates. I went to the luncheon, and I've done it for the last 5 years, I guess. And I'm not the only male at this luncheon, even though it's primarily for women. But they noted that they probably had almost 25% more women there at this time, representing the increase in the number of women who stepped up to take those councilors and selectmen and mayor and administrative positions throughout the state. It is encouraging.
Good. Okay, well, in addition to the MLK breakfast, I attended the Paul Brodeur ceremony, as I mentioned earlier.
Thank you.
That was nice. I attended the SSA board meeting at Palmer Avenue this week, and they were grappling with their budget. They're getting up to the top of their debt ceiling, and they're a little concerned that if they're not careful, they might have to ask for another increase of their debt ceiling. They're not there yet, but they're thinking about that they're getting close to it. So that was interesting. Another interesting item that didn't happen at the board meeting, but shortly afterward, Mark Hanover announced that he's not going to re-up for reappointment. And there's two other new guys, maybe even three people from the Vineyard that are interested in taking the position. So that's one change that'll be coming. And I announced that I was happy to be on the long-range task force, and I look forward to working with them. And it's
Thanks for
Great,
that.
yes.
One thing I'll report on the Steamship Authority also is that the task force that I've been appointed to, they have not had an official meeting yet. They've changed the makeup of it. They've added, the Dukes County Commissioners have asked that 2 more people be added from Dukes County to change the makeup of that committee.
And also,
And I'm not sure, it does, I think, is a much more significant change than they are putting forward that concerns me a little bit in the voice that, once again, Falmouth is not going to have because we'll become a very small minority in.
It's quality, not quantity.
and
But,
Leon
no, your
Brathwaite
point is well taken.
From the Dukes County Commissioners was in attendance, and he did comment that he would like to be also included in the long-range task force, or not he particularly, but someone from the Dukes County Commission be involved with the long-range task force planning as well. Which I'd say the more the better, you know, anybody that has stuff to contribute, that'd be good.
So-
In that case, it's just a planning initiative, so it's not a voting thing, it's just a.
Could you refresh so are you the only Falmouth member?
Nate Trumbull is the other member.
Okay,
Nat Trumbull.
okay.
And
Thank you.
I did ask them if they would be managing their parking differently this year, not backing out onto Luscombe and Railroad Ave. And they said that that was a problem because the third slip was primarily used last year, and now that they're gonna be using the middle slip this year, they don't anticipate the need for trucks being in the road, so I asked them to try to work with that a little more.
I think to point out that I brought up with Mr. Suso again on the Steamship Authority is just to be open that our lease with between the Steamship Authority and the town for that parking lot ends this December. And so it is something we're gonna have to take up as a board to renegotiate that lease almost immediately.
And it took us, you and I, what, 10 meetings, something like that?
Yep.
It was arduous.
I have reminded them of that, by the way, so thank you for the heads up.
Yeah, indeed, thank
Selectman
you.
Jones. And they said they would be getting back to me in the coming month. So, a couple of items, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Yeah, I also attended the Finance Committee's initial meeting this past week. Work's underway in preparation, as we know, for April town meeting. Peter Johnson Staub and I joined Corey Pacheco and Selectman Liaison Doug Brown in attending the regular meeting of the Marks Building Advisory Committee on this past Thursday, January 23rd. I was also pleased, Peter and I both, of course, attended the annual meeting of Massachusetts Municipal Association as well. It affords a great opportunity for networking as well as the seminar information and other topics of interest. Also wanted to note that we've begun work on the new Community Services Campus signage. And at this point, the thought is that it would include 2 signs, one that would identify the Community Services Campus itself and the 4 primary town entities that are within that campus, and that would be approximately located where the Gus Canny Community Center sign is currently. And there's a thought for a second, potentially an electronic type message sign. As you know, the current Gus Canny sign has these stick-on letters that are varied to pass on information about what's going on there, and we felt that an electronic message board or something similar to that, located about in the midpoint of that open area in front of the campus, could serve all of those entities there, as well potentially some other major community events that we, the selectmen periodically approve. We could send out notices on that. Both of those signs, when they go forward, would appear to require a modest variance from the Board of Selectmen for setback. It turns out, it appears the Gus Canny Community Center sign, for instance, is located closer to the road right-of-way than the zoning code permits, although that goes back a long ways, of course.
Grandfather.
So, we might need a few feet variance for either or both of those signs I just mentioned. And also, Selectman Patterson had made the suggestion, the welcome suggestion about potentially working with the school department on maybe some format or design issues for that campus sign. And also, I think the Artist Guild, I think you'd mentioned, Sam.
Yeah, I suggested they,
And we're happy to do that, and I'd welcome your further comments on that, or those
Yeah, well-
members of the board would, Peter and I can certainly pursue that.
well, I think if you take a look at the signs in front of the schools around the community, they've got some relief sculpture on them, and there's character to them. They're not just words, you know.
They're carved.
Yeah. And I know they're carved, and it was Ann Downs, I think, actually was his art teacher that did that. But I think, you know, something that's gonna be around for a really long time like that maybe deserves a little bit more investment to make it have a little more character than just, you know, narrative information on it, or titles of the building and what have you. And I guess the other thing I would worry about, if this is gonna be an illuminated sign, that we do it in a tasteful way, that it not be something that's neon-like, you know, that it, you know, that it complements the buildings and the architecture and what have you, and especially our historic Marks building. I would want us to try to take a little close look at the design and just how it's going to change the look in that area.
Well, the good news, if it requires a variance, it has to come back to us.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, and it appears that it would at this point, in terms of location, so, but we would certainly want to come back to the board and have your concurrence. Our hope would be to attempt to move that forward reasonably expeditiously, given where we are with the campus unfolding. And so we'll reach out to these entities and ask for their thoughts on that in an expedited way if we could.
Do we have a prospective date for the senior center?
I think there's still some discussion at the level of the building committee. I know I attended the last one along with Peter. There was some thought about end of February, but still some loose ends, so.
Still some painting.
We would want to come back to the board and have a date selected that all members of the board could join us. Obviously, that's highly appropriate. So we want to fine tune that a little bit with a couple options. Yeah, there's some painting to be done and a few other things.
Yeah, that's good. That's what I was going to ask. If there's a punch list, I mean, can we have a report in a few weeks, just kind of where it stands?
Certainly.
I should have mentioned at Mark's building, we reviewed the floor plans and the potential HVAC options, and the committee looked at how that might fit with the historic nature of the building, so it's still kind of a work in progress there.
I think, I'm sorry, on that note, are they considering using the mini-split approach like we have here?
That's one, or
'Cause-
there's two of those proposals, but then the committee was also interested in exploring whether or not conventional HVAC could be used through the floor to minimize impact on the building, so.
Well, and the only reason I bring it up is I've been in a lot of historic buildings over the last 5 years, and I've noticed that that's commonly used, just because it doesn't require changing the structure of the building significantly to provide, you know, adequate air conditioning and heat.
But in this case, it's kind of over-the-top expensive, and also there's a lot of impact to the building on the exterior from all the hoses coming out. Otherwise, you gotta rip the walls apart to hide the pipes, so.
Right.
It is pretty impactful, and if it can go in the floor, it'll be better, but it's difficult with the crawl spaces, so.
Okay,
we're gonna get
you know, those are details that everybody has to work on.
more
right?
opinions from more contractors in the city.
Yeah.
Your next meeting, Monday, February 10th.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.